decisions, and we've used Chelsea in reference to that they got it absolutely spot on.
Yeah, they got it right with that manager, because he's not a manager that comes in and says, right, I'm playing this system, and that's his. He comes in and looks at the players he's got and then puts them how he believes they're going to do the best possible, play the best possible game that they can for him. Just look at what he's doing with his wing backs. You know, no Romelu Lukaku at the minute up front, and they still look just as potent. It's amazing what they're doing to see, and it doesn't make no difference if it's Reece James, if it's Azpilicueta, if it's Marcus Alonso, Chilwell. They come into these areas where he's saying he wants them to be pushed further up so they can attack more, and it's causing so many problems. It's brilliant the way he's coaching the team in a minute. Players who weren't even playing before, they've all back involved now. Everybody's happy, everybody's doing the stuff at Chelsea. And
it's working so well for them that they are top of the Premier League. They're into the last 16 of the Champions League, but they look good. They look like they could defend their European crown as well as win the Premier League title.
Yeah, they got, so much quality in abundance. You know, like Wright said, they're missing Lukaku. You wouldn't know he's not there. Timo Werner, Kai Havertz. For me, they haven't even started in the Chelsea's careers, but you can do by without them. You know, Mason Mount's been injured recently. You know, and all the quality. And Chalobah comes in, he plays. Reece James. You know, all of these boys are from the academy. Now, we give a lot of credit to Frank Lampard for giving these boys an opportunity. You're not giving them half the opportunity what they're getting now under Thomas Tuchel, when we all thought it was going to be the end of their opportunities. You know, Tammy Abraham had to leave the club. He decided he didn't want Tammy. But the rest of them all play, all top draw. It's a massive, huge bonus for that academy, because everyone there now thinks, you know, if I had a young boy, I would say, you can't go to Chelsea. It's a graveyard for young players. It's not anymore. They give you a chance to play. And they're winning at the same time. That is a dream for Abramovich. You know, he's always wanted that. He's always wanted the local boys to come through, the academy to start producing world-class players. That's exactly what they're doing. But amongst that, he throws in the special players. You know, you can go and buy these boys and you can give them time because your academy boys are doing so well. He doesn't burn a bridge with any player. Ross Barkley he's brought back into the fold as well. You know, Alonso, who was out in the cold, he throws him, and Azpilicueta can't get a kick of the ball at the moment. But he doesn't burn a bridge with them. Chilwell's out injured now. I think Azpilicueta go back in, or he might go with Alonso for the left foot balance there. But he's got so much talent, and the goals what they share around the squad. Reece James is the top goal scorer. He's a right wing back, you know, and the person who assisted him mostly was a left wing back. The style of play. The only worry for me is I think the team what are going to win the Premier League is how they fare on the head-to-heads. We know it's going to be out of Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. When they played at the Bridge against Man City, they got taught a footballing lesson, because Tuchel got that wrong. 100% got that wrong that day, because he never gave the confidence for his boys to go out and go toe-to-toe with Man City, and it was an absolute footballing clinic. Could have been a lot more than it actually was. Now he needs to that, and needs to realise that them boys need to go toe-to-toe with anyone they play, because the head-to-heads are going to be vital between them three teams. Yeah, and they're going to go toe-to-toe with Manchester United this weekend. It's hard to kind of build up to this game without looking at the real contrast between them that we've talked about already, in terms of getting everything in the right place. But those academy players, Reece James in particular, are just hitting heights that I'm not sure people would have predicted maybe even 4 or 5 years ago.
No, definitely not. And I think Reece James had that opportunity under Frank Lampard and has played well for England as well. Probably didn't play as much in the Euros as he would have liked to, but this season, after perhaps a disappointment under Tuchel, but I think what makes Tuchel such a phenomenal coach is his game management. Yeah. He sees a problem and he fixes it so well, and I think he's the best coach in the Premier League for doing that, and I think they'll be relishing the opportunity to face a wounded animal this weekend. I think they'll be laughing at the opportunity, to be honest.
The thing is that when you look at Man United and who they've still got in charge, it's the same people. So there's nothing that me as a Chelsea player going to play them, it's going to say it's going to be a lot different. He might bring in Jadon Sancho, which we saw Jadon Sancho play in games before. He might bring in Donny van de Beek, but the way that Chelsea are playing at the moment, they won't fear them. You know, you look at someone no one's mentioned is Callum Hudson-Odoi. We're talking about a player that not long ago got subbed once he got subbed on against Southampton. You know, he refused to play for the 21s, which I quite agreed with him because coming off of that massive injury he had, you know, trying to get into the Chelsea side with the players he's got to try and oust to get in there and stay in there. is going to be a tough task for him. He's done it. And that's why him turning down the under-21s, it's a good job for him. Simply, he's going to get into the England team off of what he does for the Chelsea first team, not for the under-21s. At the latter stages of his under-21 career, he's not 17, 18 in the under-21s. He's 21. So you look at what he's doing now. He's played the last 6 games. You know, he's not been substituted. He was somebody that Tuchel had a real problem with at the start, saying, I'm not sure about his work rate and that. He's got him going. And now he's looking like the player that we was thinking, what, Bayern Munich want to pay 30 million for him. He's just 18. We're seeing it now. And we're seeing that from all of the Chelsea players who look like they've got a point to prove and want to play.
Ruben
Loftus-Cheek looking like now, unbelievable to see again.
Yeah. We'll come on to him, because do you think he's improved him, Tim? Wright has already had a say on Callum Hudson-Odoi.
He's improved everyone. But the boy was looking for another club, without doubt. He would have been on the phone to his agent saying, I need to get out of here. I'm not getting the love. He's really being very tough on me. And as he says there, Hudson says there, he's tough on him for a reason. Now he sees the reason. In the end, when he's actually performed in training, because the in-house competition there is so great. I mean, if they don't perform well in training against each other, up against each other, that is the first and foremost. Forget the opposition they're playing at the weekend or midweek. It's about being better than someone in your position in training. And once he shows that he's listening to the manager, he's doing exactly what he wants, he's given him the opportunity to play. And he's not just given one opportunity, he's given him a couple of games, because he continues to improve. That's all you ask for from a player, that's all you ask for from a manager. Once I get my chance, if I've got the shirt on, keep it to me. Don't look at any he doesn't look at favouritism, doesn't look at price tags, doesn't look at superstars. Forget Timo Werners and Havertz. They're not doing it at the moment. They're going to leave them out. Pulisic is back in. Ziyech has come in and done brilliant as well. It's just so many players. These academy boys at Chelsea, they could play for probably most teams outside of the top 3, and probably some of the teams in the top 3. They could play for any of the teams in the Premier League. And they're academy graduates. Fair play to him. Rolling his sleeves up. Not willing to just throw his toys out the pram and say, get me away from here. There must be an easier life where I can walk into a side. Willing to take it head on, the competition of what he's got in-house. And you have to give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, Hudson-Odoi's had to play the long game.
Yeah, and I think we see that a lot with some of the younger, more modern managers. I think they take a bit more of a holistic approach across men's and women's football, and I think it's brilliant. I think Southgate's done that a lot with England players. Jude Bellingham, he said, you played so much football, you're not out of contention just because I don't pick you in a squad. You need a rest, having conversations with parents. I think he took a similar approach with Callum Hudson-Odoi and said, look, I'm not playing you because I don't think you're a good footballer. I'm going to play you at some point, but you need to prove your worth. And I think as a player, you would get wrapped up in the talk when he was linked to Bayern Munich, a season and a half ago. You would probably look at that and think, did I waste my opportunity? I could have been playing Champions League football right now, and I'm not even getting picked. And then I get injured, and it's even worse. But he waited, he was patient, and it seemed like Tuchel sort of bought that as well and said, don't worry, wait for your opportunity. I think that's brilliant.
But Florence, what you also see, and right, tell you, when you're sitting there and you're not playing, and they continue to sign players, world-class players, for huge amounts of money, you're thinking, well, I'm going further down the ladder here. I'm the pecking order. I have absolutely no chance. But he didn't do that, the boy. He stuck his chest out and said, no, I'm good enough. I'm confident in my ability. Someone must have been in his ear at the club. Perhaps not the manager. He doesn't need to tell him. Maybe one of the coaches, perhaps the youth guys who have seen him come through and say, you're capable. And then Tuchel's just trusted. He's trusted in the kid. He's given him the opportunity. He's led him to the water, and he said, "It's up to you to drink it."
What happens as well with that? It kind of like it's a knock-on effect to the other players.
Yeah.
Because then what the other players see is that the manager, no matter, maybe he might have been skulking around the place. You don't know what he was like, because when you get a bid like that from a massive club like Bayern Munich, you can get carried away with that. Maybe him knowing that there's teams out there that wanted him, he was acting differently, like he said in the video. But then he's got his head down. Other players have seen what's happened when he's got his head down. They've seen how he was acting, maybe, and the manager's not bothered about how he's acting, because all the manager bothered about now is how he's performing. And when you perform for this manager, you'll play. It's the same with, you look at Trevor Chalobah. Trevor Chalobah was behind everybody there. Every single centre half, what was there, he was behind them. And slowly he's kept himself going, gone on loan, gone here, there, and now he looks like a mainstay in that team, because again, he's been patient enough, he's obviously done the work, and this manager has recognised, and he's put him in, and now he's unbelievable in the team.
He's become the first Trevor to score in the Champions League.
Is he?
Yeah. Because he's got he's got an unusual name because he's Trevor OH at the end, isn't he?
Right.
Rather than OR. So that's
Trevor.
Just an aside.
Thanks
that was all it
Charles.
was.
Trevor Francis?
Different spelling. That's it.
Trevor.
But you were talking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek as well,
Yeah.
and it's similar sort of situation. And for him, he's gone out on loan a couple of times. He's had injury problems, but again, a player that's kind of developing well under Tuchel.
And he might get his opportunity now. Kante come off injured the other night, he come on and he really did well. I mean, he's got special feet. I mean, he's a Rolls Royce of a player, in my opinion. Just needs to get his head down and, I mean, he's got all the attributes. He just needs to start listening to the manager. He needs to trust in the manager, and certainly he must look across the dressing room when he's talking to the guys and seeing their results recently. He must think, this fella knows what he's talking about. You know, I have to believe him. But special talent for me. Different to Kante. Completely different. But, and he's got a lot of competition in them areas of the field. Jorginho looks like he's the main man for him. You know, Kovacic, I mean, Ross Barkley. There's so many. But he has to believe. Ruben has to believe. I certainly believe in him, and I'm sure Thomas Tuchel now he looks like he's got his head down in training and working hard. He's believing in him as well.
I think you have to look at the injury he had. He's had a couple of really bad ones. And for him, a lot of people have continually said he's got to move. He's got to get out of there. He's got to go somewhere else. And he's got to play. We've got to see because we've been talking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek for many, many years, and we forget that he's still young enough to establish himself. And you feel like under this manager, especially when you look at some of his performances, from back to front, he's got everything if he was playing in number 4, number 8, number 10. And if he could keep himself fit, Tuchel knows this. Yeah. And I think Tim's right. We know Kante is one of those players that you're probably going to have to name the position after him at some stage.
He's a Makelele, isn't he?
Exactly, because he's like that Makelele, he's like Vieira, and you have to say Kante as well. When someone comes along and they're exceptional, you get that, he's like Vieira, he's like Makelele, he's like Kante. Now, you're right, Tim, he's not like Kante, but what he is, he's a hybrid of something else because he's 6'3" or something, whatever it is.
Huge.
Unbelievable feet, great engine, you know, he can do everything. So you're thinking that if that goes right for him because this manager believes in him, then we're going to see another one of Chelsea's like academy players. Michael Emenalo's got to get so much credit for what he's done with that academy. Again, you know, coming to the fore. The 3 of them scored in the Champions League the other day against Juventus. You know, 3 of the academy players. It's amazing.
So the academy conversation around Chelsea is a really interesting one, just because it might not have happened if they hadn't had the ban on transfer activities, on registering players. They might not have brought some of these players through. They might not have been developed under Frank Lampard. They might not have been further developed under Tuchel.
But, Kels, the thing with this academy is that they were winning everything. Everything on the table, as Musa Okongo would say, when in respect of a team that was so good. So for that generation of players to not get into this, in and around this Chelsea side, and you're right, Kels, maybe if they didn't get the transfer ban, maybe if Frank didn't come in and do it, they would have gone somewhere else and done it. But the fact that did happen, and now they've got a manager and people upstairs who are recognising, hang on a minute, this is what we could do it out of our academy and then add to it. It's literally, when you look at Chelsea, they look formidable. They can buy and they can produce. It's formidable what they're capable of doing at the moment.
It's all looking great for them at the moment. All ends up. I mean, performance of depth. The only thing that was letting them down, I think their signings haven't been great. I think they will be good in the end, but because of the emergence of the academy boys holding their end up, I think it's giving that group time. Havertz and Werner are 2 players. Pulisic, we've seen it in spells, but not fantastic. Ziyech is as well. I think he's a slow burner. Lukaku hit the floor running because it was the Premier League. He knew all about it, but he hadn't scored before his injury in 7 games. But they're scoring goals without him. I think this academy is holding its end up, and it's took time. But it's not took time because they wasn't good enough. It's because they wasn't getting the opportunity. You're absolutely right. How do you know how good someone is until you put them on the stage? When these kids are getting the opportunity now, and they've got a manager there, Frank Lampard as well, but also the one who's took over from him, Thomas Tuchel, appreciates it. But what he will tell you, it's about the ability, of course it is, but what he looks at these kids is, because they've had a lot very early in their career, they pay them a huge amount of money there. and they haven't done too much. It's what's in here. Have they got the mentality for it? And I think once this man talks to them and they listen to him and start believing him, the mentality changes. They need to work hard. You need to work hard first and foremost. You need to sponge the information what the manager has given to you, and your ability will come through. And that's what they got at the moment. It's been brilliant for Chelsea. I think Mr. Abramovich must be going, I've finally got what I wanted here. I don't have to keep going into the transfer market. I think it looks like Rudiger will possibly leave. He's running out his contract. He's been massive for him. But Trevor is the one they're nurturing. They're nurturing Trevor to come in and take. Yes, they might go out and buy someone else, but the door is never closed for that academy. And initially, years ago, I would go back as early as 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said that was a graveyard for young footballers because they never got the opportunity. Very few of them got the opportunity. They
got the opportunity elsewhere in the Premier League at times, but not.
I mean,
but
the
not
best
at Chelsea.
example would be Declan.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Declan Rice, who's out there, is possibly one of the best all-round midfield players in the Premier League at the moment, certainly English. And he was at the academy, and they didn't see a pathway for him, so he went to West Ham, and he probably ended up going back there.
But that's another one that we're going to come on to. But you talked about Romelu Lukaku. That's a really intriguing situation, as well as Chelsea have played without him. The goals that they've scored without him in the side, and suddenly you look at him coming back in and thinking, how's this going to work?
Yeah, I mean, we had Julian on the show earlier, and I know he's a big fan of Romelu Lukaku, and he couldn't wait for his return. And in that Arsenal game, he was phenomenal. Could not be touched. They were terrified of him, and his presence alone was so huge. And I've been very surprised how his performances have tailed off a little bit. And I don't know if it's more of what's around him or him personally, but it has been surprising that he hasn't followed up that brilliant start to the season with more, because I think people have big expectations, and he's a big game player, and we know he can do that. And also Chelsea seemed like the right fit for him. It seemed like he was going to work with the rest of that group very well, so it's been intriguing that it tailed off a little bit the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, what do you think's happened? What does he need to do to get back into that, the blistering form, but short-lived form that he hit when he came into the Chelsea side?
I think that it's me being, if I'm forward going back into the Chelsea side, and you do go through spells where it just kind of like it doesn't happen for you, whatever reason, you miss chances ain't coming. But when you look at Chelsea and the amount of chances that they are making, you put yourself back. It's like a Harry Kane situation. If you put Harry Kane in a situation and you make sure that the chances are coming, he'll score them. I think that Romelu is the same. No striker is immune to going through that spell. Because like I say, watching him against Arsenal, watching him in some of those games, once the ball goes into him and the way he knows his body now, knows how he's playing, it's literally impossible to play against. So you can only see him coming back into that team and adding to it.
Yeah.
And probably can't wait to get back in it because he's seen how many chances are being created and he will be on the end of those. So I don't really worry for him. You know what I mean?
It's almost like he wants more pressure, I feel like. And I think that's why that game against Arsenal was such a good sort of homecoming for him, because he wanted the pressure. He wanted to be the main man. Now goals are coming from elsewhere. He's the quieter player. And I don't know if that suits him as well, because I was at the game that Chelsea played Zenit at home. Terrible game. Chelsea were terrible for 75 minutes. Bang, one opportunity comes his way. Lukaku finishes, brilliant header. And that's what he needs. But Chelsea needed him to be the get-out. Yeah. Chelsea needed him to be the match winner.
Like he was at Inter.
Exactly. And now he's not that man anymore. It's almost like he needs a new identity. What am I in this team? Because they don't need to rely on me, but I still need to know that I'm getting the right opportunities.
It's a good point. I'll tell you why. I remember leaving Palace and going to Arsenal. It was like an eye-opener because, like, when I was at Palace, everything was geared towards, everything was geared towards me being in there. And then when I went to Arsenal, I remember people would say, listen, there's other good players doing stuff. So when you're doing stuff, it may not come to you. So you've got to do something else. And maybe that's where he is now.
You didn't do bad at Arsenal, by the way.
No, but in the end...
when I played against Arsenal, it was all about you.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that you have to learn to... Sometimes I'm in, and then probably they pass it to Merce or to Rocky Rocastle or someone else, Alan Smith or something. So you have to think, oh, gosh, I've got to do more to get myself in positions where I can thrive. Yeah. And I think that's what he's going to have to do now, because Chelsea are doing so much to thrive that you are not the focal point. That's all he's got to do. He's got to get himself back in there.
The beauty of it now is they haven't got to rush him back because the team's doing so well.
Good point.
He'd be chomping at the bit this weekend. I mean, if there is a team in the Premier League where people point the finger, and I thought he did well there. I always thought they were a bigger threat when you're playing against Man United with Romelu Lukaku in it.
Yeah.
He will not be able to wait to get on that field against Manchester United.
Look at that Manchester United defence and the way that we've
licking
seen
his
them
lips.
play. And you imagine Romelu Lukaku against
Absolutely.
that. This is going to be...
We can't rule that out, can we?
Well, you sort of think as a game to come back into, that might be the one that he would like, as you
Ideally.
say. But this game, this weekend, we've sort of expected